Welcome to the infamous edition of the Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched first-person simulation done through creative storytelling of history's most infamous people. Now, let's meet our guest. Welcome to the podcast. Let's start at the absolute beginning, where the public narrative hasn't yet distorted who you were. When and where were you born? And what was your given name?
I was born on July 18th, 1887, in the rural area of Fyresdal, located in the Telemark County of southern Norway. My given name at birth was Vidkun Abraham Lauritz Johnson Quisling.
What was your hometown and home life like as a child?
My family environment was highly respectable, centered around education and faith. My father, John Lauritz Quisling, was a Lutheran minister, a theologian, and a genealogist. My mother, Anna Caroline Bang, came from a wealthy family. Because of my father's changing church appointments, we relocated during my youth. When I was a young boy, we moved to the Strømsø borough in Drammen, and later we settled in Skien when my father was appointed as a provost.
Was there a story behind your name or a nickname that stuck with you?
My name, Vidkun, translates from Old Norse roots to mean someone who is widely known or well known. It was a traditional name, but it became a heavy mantle to carry. Later in life, after the major global events took place, the press and public didn't use a nickname for me. Instead, they turned my actual family surname, Quisling, into a noun and a verb to describe a collaborator or someone who betrays their country.
What were you like as a child, and how many years of schooling did you actually attend?
I was an incredibly shy and quiet child, keeping mostly to myself, which unfortunately made me a target for bullying by other students when we moved to Drammen because of my distinct Telemark dialect. However, I proved to be a child prodigy, specifically with exceptional mathematical abilities. I attended local schools through my teenage years, before entering the Norwegian War College in 1905, beating out hundreds of other applicants on the entrance exams. I then completed my studies at the Norwegian Military Academy, graduating in 1911. My academic performance there was so flawless that I achieved the highest grades in the entire century-long history of the institution.
What's a decision that changed everything for you but felt small at the time?
Early in my career, I chose to transition from standard administrative military staff work to diplomatic and humanitarian operations abroad. In the 1920s, I agreed to serve as an assistant to the famous Arctic explorer Fridtjof Nansen. This led me to travel to the Soviet Union, where I spent several years coordinating international famine relief efforts in Ukraine. It felt like a humanitarian calling at the time, but witnessing the inner workings of the Soviet system completely shaped my worldview, sparking a deep, lifelong opposition to Bolshevism that ultimately dictated every political choice I made thereafter.
Let's talk about your early run-ins with the law. Before the world knew your name for your most infamous actions, what was your very first arrest or interaction with law enforcement? And what were the consequences?
I actually did not have a standard criminal record or juvenile arrests. I was a high-ranking military officer, a captain and later a major, who served as a military attaché in Petrograd and Helsinki. I eventually rose to become Norway's Minister of Defense from 1931 to 1933 under the Agrarian Party government. My first actual arrest by law enforcement did not happen until the very end of my political career, on May 9, 1945, when the German forces collapsed and I surrendered myself to Norwegian police at Møllergata 19.
At what moment did you realize your name would never be forgotten?
It was on the evening of April 9, 1940, the exact day Nazi Germany invaded Norway. I utilized a radio broadcast station in Oslo to announce a unilateral coup d'état. I declared myself the Prime Minister and ordered the Norwegian people to cease their resistance against the German occupation. The immediate national and international shock from that broadcast made it clear that my actions had permanently altered Norwegian history.
Did fame make you more dangerous? Or did it simply expose who you already were?
My ascension to notoriety simply provided a platform for the deep-seated political convictions I had harbored for a decade. When I founded my political party, National Samling, in 1933, I felt completely marginalized by the traditional democratic system. When the occupation occurred, I believed I was stepping into a role that was necessary to guide Norway through a global conflict, exposing my absolute willingness to align with foreign forces to achieve what I believed was national stability.
Who do you believe betrayed you first? A person, society, or your own instincts?
I felt the German authorities betrayed my vision first. When I staged my coup in 1940, Adolf Hitler and his representatives quickly realized that I lacked widespread public support among the Norwegian population. They brushed me aside within days, replaced my administration, and appointed Joseph Terboven as the Reichskommissar to rule over Norway. I was relegated to a secondary, dependent position, realizing that my German allies viewed me merely as a tool of convenience rather than an equal partner.
What was your most unique habit or a random fact about you that would surprise people?
People are often surprised to learn that long before my political alignment with Germany, my academic and humanitarian work earned me high honors from foreign governments. Due to my diplomatic service managing British interests in the Soviet Union, when relations between those countries were severed, the British government honored me by making me a commander of the Order of the British Empire in 1929, though that honor was later revoked.
What did the public never understand about the pressure you were under at the time?
During my trial, and in the extensive diaries and letters I kept while in custody, I continuously maintained that the public did not grasp the geographic reality Norway faced. I felt caught between the imperial designs of Great Britain and the massive military weight of Nazi Germany, while simultaneously fearing a Soviet expansion into the Nordic region. I felt an immense pressure to keep Norway from becoming a total bloodbath, believing a cooperative administration was the only way to retain any semblance of Norwegian autonomy.
Did you have any known rivalries that defined your career?
My primary internal political rivalry was with Joseph Terboven, the German Reichskommissar in Norway. Though we were technically on the same side of the wartime administration, we constantly locked horns. He held the real power and frequently treated me with open contempt, viewing my nationalist ambitions as an annoyance to the German war machine's efficiency.
What personal battles were you fighting privately while the world was watching?
Privately, I was fighting a battle against absolute political isolation and the realization of my own growing powerlessness. From 1942 to 1945, when I was finally given the title of Minister-President, I had to project an aura of authority to the public, while privately knowing that every major decision regarding my country, including economic exploitation and the arrest and deportation of Norwegian citizens, was being dictated directly by Berlin.
When the law finally closed in, how exactly were you brought to justice? Walk me through the final arrest, the charges that ultimately stuck, and the legal outcome of your trials.
As the German occupation forces surrendered in May 1945, I walked into a police station in Oslo to turn myself over. I was taken into custody and placed on trial before a Norwegian court during the summer. I was charged with high treason, theft, murder, and military conspiracy. The court found me guilty on multiple counts, including the betrayal of my country and the collaboration that led to the deportation of hundreds of Jewish citizens to concentration camps. I was sentenced to death.
When, where, and how did you pass away?
I passed away in the early morning hours of October 24, 1945. My execution was carried out by a military firing squad at the Akershus fortress in Oslo, Norway.
What past regrets did you carry with you to the end? If you could erase one decision from your life, would you? Or was it necessary to become who you were?
Right up until the final moments of my life, I refused to express regret for the fundamental choices I made. My final recorded words before the firing squad were, "I have been unjustly convicted and die innocent." I believe to the very end that my actions were entirely necessary to protect Norway from a worse fate under Soviet communism.
Do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
I only ask that history looks past the mere label my name became. Look at the complex geopolitical crisis of the 1940s, the threat of Eastern expansion, and the impossible choices presented to a small nation in a world at war.
And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, do better with the life you have been given and choose to do good in this life. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.